It's crazy.
Ugh,
And I
so
think,
cute.
yeah, in tandem with teaching at the cooking studio and the bakery that I have out of the house, for her, that's just like fuel for her fire,
Yeah.
you know? And so she sees what I'm doing. I do a local market once a month, and
Mhm.
she sets up a table every time I'm there with her. You know, she makes earrings and jewelry and whatever, and she sets it up every single time. She has her little coin box. She talks to the customer.
Mhm.
She's gung ho. And now my youngest, she is walking around the house. What can I sell? What can I sell? You know, her passion is not the same where Olivia knows for sure what she wants to sell, but Esme, the youngest, is like, well, if she can do it, so can
So can
I.
I.
And my mom is doing it, so I can too. So where can I, they'll pull up their coding software and they'll create like little hats with business names and
Oh,
shirts
that's
with
so
business.
cool.
Yeah. And it's, they come up with all of these little things. And I think it's because they see
Right.
what my mom has done also, who talks to them a lot about it, and then what I've been doing.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to kind of teach your kids. I think
Mhm.
people don't realize that you're teaching your kids more than whether you work or they go to school or they don't. I mean,
Right.
you're teaching your kids every single day.
Right.
What you're teaching them is kind of on you. Like,
Right.
it's up to you.
But I like that perspective, that because it's not something, because I think you and I are very similar in that way. I only want to get married and have babies. There was a time right after Legally Blonde came out where like I could have been a lawyer. I was
100%.
positive I could do that. But I literally stopped going to college once I realized I was going to marry my husband, because I don't need to take care of myself. Like, he's got this. I'm good. And to be fair, he knew this going into it.
Yeah.
I only wanted to be a mom, and I only wanted to be a wife. Like, that was it. And I've been able to do that this whole time. And then when this hit, I was like, I don't now it was like I have seen the footprints of God like so much now that I can like breathe.
Yeah.
I wish I was like wise enough to see them along the way. But I mean, the coffee shop that I work at was one of the first places we found when we moved here that felt good, that felt like home, that we didn't like cry, because the boys and I were super homesick for a while, and we still, of course, have bouts of that. But it was like just they played worship music, and the food was good, and the coffee was good, and the owner was so sweet. And then they became friends of ours, and then we moved down the street from them without knowing that we were moving down the street from them. And then they just happened to be hiring like a lot this past summer. They had a lot of turnover. And I just kept thinking, like, I should probably reach out. Like, and I had to be like, hey, and like, my goal is to leave you. And they were so gracious. They were like, yes, you're hired. And yes, we're going to keep praying for him to find a job. And I think those things that, like, yeah, we didn't want to go to work. Sometimes there's like, I mean, I still work very part time for them. There are times where, I mean, now I'm excited, I think, because I'm not there all the time. I like kind of miss it. I'm like, wait, I want to go.
I want to
like,
go
I want
back.
to go back to work. Because I didn't work this past weekend. So now like I had like 13 days off, and I'm like, what? That's weird. And there were weeks where I was working 30 hours. So I think our kids seeing us having to do things that we don't want to do, and knowing, like I've said to my kids, like, there's nowhere, I had to miss 2 football games. I'm like, there's nowhere I would rather be than on that sideline watching this game where y'all look like you don't know what you're doing. That's exactly where I want to be.
It's true.
But it's not where I can be right now. And, thankfully things have changed and I can be, but I think it's good for them to see us like uncomfortable
Struggle
also.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to not, so that when they're like, well, I don't want to, well, there's that happens.
They say that a lot around the house.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this.
Mhm.
And, like, well, I don't want to feed you 5 times a day for the rest of my life.
But here we are. No, and I think it's true too. And I especially think in this world of people who think things should go their way. And that's why we have this crazy mental health crisis, in my humble opinion. And, people losing their minds over things because no one has told them, like, no, sometimes you just don't get your way. And sometimes
Right.
it sucks. And sometimes it is unfair. And sometimes it is unjust. And I think just like, I feel like I've almost been like a little mean lately in the past like year, where I'm like,
I doubt it.
where I'm seeing like the world and like kids, and I'm like, ew, like you guys kind of stuff like this. Ew, no, I'm not raising you to be that way. Like,
Right.
You're going to be strong men. You're going to be tough. You're going to be a defender of women. You're going to work hard, and you're going to do things that you don't like. Like, we all have to do things we don't like. One thing my husband told the kids, I think they were talking about sports or something. And we've been trying, because we're so into sports, to like change up everyone's diet and everyone be eating healthier and fueling and not eating the junk and working out also. And the kids are like really working out and like a lot. And the gym is like intense. Like they are not playing with you. Like you're gonna be really uncomfortable. And the second you get comfortable, then we're up in it. Like they are serious. Like the kids look rough when we leave. And I love it for them. And we were talking about like how, I guess my husband was talking about like entrepreneurship and working and being an athlete and all this. And he was like, the boys were like, well, I don't want to do that. I think we were telling Judah he had to practice like an hour a day or something, or we're not paying for this $200 basketball clinic. And he was like, well, I don't want to do that. And he goes, you think Ray Lewis wanted to run into people all the time? You think Ray Lewis wanted to put the pizza and the beer down? Like, no, like Steph Curry doesn't just sit around doing nothing in the off season. You don't want to, I think it was James Harden maybe is a basketball player that let himself go in the off season. I could be wrong about who that is. And you're like, you don't want to James Harden it, do you? Like you gotta work hard and you gotta do things you don't want to do. And he's like, she was like, well, I'm gonna be a millionaire. And he's like, I guarantee you every once in a while Ray Lewis has to scrub his own toilet. I bet he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't really do that, but he could,
But at some point he had to.
He had to get there. He probably,
All millionaires, regardless of sports or whatever, they had to put in
hard work.
Sort of something they didn't want to do, I'm sure.
And I think too, with homeschooling, like you said, like our kids they can go to training at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and they can train for 3 hours if you want them to. Or if they want to learn a language, they can have extra tutoring because we have so much more time in our day with them to get them to these places. So yeah, I think homeschool has a lot more to do with home than school most of the time.
100%.
And like, yes, our kids know how to read. Yes, they know how to add, multiply, subtract, divide, kind of. But there are so many more lessons that we get to teach them when they are here and with us than if they were not.